From Montana's news leader, this is the MTN Noon News.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us on your MTN Statewide News this Tuesday. I'm Jeanelle Slade. Well, this afternoon, COVID-19 claims another Montana life and adds 66 new cases across the state. This latest death, a Yellowstone County woman in her 80s who lived at a local senior living facility. This brings our state's death total to 120. There are 163 people hospitalized with COVID across Montana. Well, last night, Lincoln County officials reported another death as well as cases connected to Libby Public Schools. No other information about the individual was released. Now, this brings Lincoln County's death total to 3. Health officials also wrote that 2 active coronavirus cases from the weekend are students at Libby Middle and High Schools. Contact tracing is ongoing. According to the Centers for Disease Control, influenza season begins in October, spikes in December, and doesn't phase out until March. Well, Dr. Todd Wampler, with the St. Peter's Health Medical Group president, says there are a lot of unknowns. We just don't know what's going to happen. He and his colleagues have been discussing the upcoming flu season for weeks. They have identified several elements to help them navigate both viruses. But if you do get sick, Dr. Wampler says there is one key symptom you need to watch for.
One symptom that seems to be unique to COVID is the loss of a sense of taste or smell. Now, that doesn't happen with everybody with COVID, and occasionally it can happen with other viruses as well. But that tends to be one symptom that kind of tips us off a little bit.
And once again, wearing masks, washing hands often, and keeping a safe distance from others are all precautions to help avoid both flu and COVID. Well, the search for a coronavirus vaccine has taken center stage in the presidential election. Skylar Henry has more details from the White House.
President Trump says he's willing to spend his own money to win the 2020 presidential election.
Whatever it takes, we have to win. This is the most important election in the history of our country.
The coronavirus pandemic continues to dominate presidential politics, with a back and forth about a future vaccine over Labor Day.
I want full transparency on the vaccine.
With me, it's the faster the better.
President Trump continues to tie the timeline for a vaccine to November 3rd, Election Day.
We're going to have a vaccine very soon, maybe even before a very special date. You know what date I'm talking about.
Democratic nominee Joe Biden says linking the vaccine to the election could hurt its chances for success.
Said so many things that aren't true. I'm worried if we do have a really good vaccine, people are going to be reluctant to take it. And so he's undermining public confidence.
President Trump says it's Biden and his running mate Kamala Harris who are undermining public confidence about the vaccine.
Contrary to all of the lies, the vaccine, that they're politicalized. They'll say anything. And it's so dangerous for our country what they say. But the vaccine will be very safe and very effective.
Biden says he prays for a vaccine soon.
If I could get a vaccine tomorrow, I'd do it. If it cost me the election, I'd do it. We need a vaccine. We need it now.
9 pharmaceutical manufacturers working on a vaccine issued a joint statement saying they will only submit a vaccine for approval if it's proven safe and effective. Skylar Henry, CBS News, the White House.
In an effort to have transparency, FDA Commissioner Dr. Stephen Hahn tweeted that he'll be using a forum tonight to highlight the FDA's work on a COVID vaccine. Well, in Gallatin County, the rain very helpful for both firefighters and evacuated residents. Some were briefly allowed in their homes to grab belongings yesterday. The Bridger Foothills fire remains at just over 7,000 acres today. Firefighters used the minimal activity of flames to construct fire lines and secure structures yesterday. So far, several structures have been lost in that fire. Now, the recent wildfires throughout Montana, a reminder to always be prepared for disaster. September is National Preparedness Month. Over the past few weeks, wildfires across the state have forced hundreds of people from their homes. Now, the Red Cross reminds homeowners to have a disaster evacuation plan in place and know what items to take if you're forced to evacuate.
Make sure your family knows that plan, you practice that plan. We also encourage you to build a kit, a first aid kit that has things like extra medication that you might need if you have to leave your home for a long period of time, cell phone chargers, important documents.
And it's now time to check in on the weather scene with meteorologist Ed McIntosh. And Ed, what is the Farmer's Almanac telling us?
We got to take a look and see what the old Farmer's Almanac says. Let's start off nationally. Gorgeous weather down into Florida. We're looking at wetter weather anywhere from the Great Lakes states over into the mid-Atlantic states up towards the New England states and wet into the Pacific Northwest. But for our part of the country, we're looking at temperatures to be overall milder than average. They'll still have some periods of cold weather that will come and go. The blue shaded areas in western Montana and western Wyoming looking at average snow, but maybe a little above average snow into the eastern plains of Montana, including Billings off towards the Dakotas. Take a closer look at the forecast. Why bother taking a look at the forecast? We already know what's going to happen, but I'll have details on the short term coming up next.
All right, thanks so much, Ed. Well, it may be early September, but it looked a lot like winter in parts of Montana Monday, which means ski season is on the way. Take a look. Showdown Ski south of Great Falls covered in snow. While the slopes won't open until December 11th, staff members are excited to see the snow and say they are in full preparation mode.
We are currently maintaining all our lifts, doing our annual maintenance on those. We have a logging crew on the mountain this summer doing some additional logging to what was started last year, and our guys are out supporting that effort.
Now, the resort is also making changes to comply with the state's Phase 2 coronavirus guidelines. And take a look. Here's another beautiful sight for skiers. Look at all the snow that fell on Red Lodge Mountain southwest of Billings. It's already piling up as many look forward to opening day on November 27th. Now, this year's wait for ski season has been a little longer after COVID forced the resort to close early last year. Red Lodge Mountain will also have safety protocols in place this season, and resort staff expect the 2021 ski season to run through April 11th. More information today about a body discovered behind a downtown Billings hotel on Sunday. Yellowstone County Coroner Cliff Mahoney says 26-year-old Adrian Goodbear died from a fatal stab wound in his arm. 25-year-old Andriano Fowler faces a homicide charge after police say he and Goodbear got into a fight near the downtown Hardee's in Billings. On Sunday, Goodbear's body was found with a large cut in his arm. Police believe he drove himself to the roadway inn on North 27th after the fight, and that's where he died. In western Montana, police more convinced today that a suspected arsonist became the victim of his own crime. Authorities say the body of 33-year-old Julian Draper was found in the Torch Mission Valley Cultural Center in Pablo. Police believe Draper started that fire. He was also arrested last month in another arson. The Cultural Center was burned down Sunday evening and is home to many ancient artifacts and documents from the Salish tribes. The gift shop was a complete loss, but officials hope parts of the museum are still salvageable. Well, the Helena Regional Airport secured nearly $5 million in federal funding to pay for its major upgrades to its Rocky Mountain Emergency Services Training Center. The Federal Aviation Administration announced the airport will receive $4.9 million in grants. Now, that includes almost $500,000 from the CARES Act COVID relief package. Firefighters from around the country practice putting out aircraft fires at the training center on the airport campus. Airport Director Jeff Wadecamper says the grants will cover full replacement of the center's fire system and repairs to the building. Work is set to start in October and should wrap up by April in time for the next training season. Well, still ahead on your noon news, put on your dancing shoes. We are taking you to a group who found a way to keep rehearsal going during the pandemic. But first, Ed's in next with your statewide weather forecast.